The waiter leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper, and said 7 words that would shatter everything Sophia thought she knew about her family. "Miss, your card paid for this dinner." At that moment, surrounded by designer dresses and fake smiles, she realized the truth wasn't just about money. It was about years of silent sacrifice that no one ever saw, and tonight, that silence was about to end. Sophia Carter never imagined her mother's 60th birthday dinner would be the night everything fell apart. But sometimes the truth doesn't wait for the right moment. It arrives when you're wearing a $40 dress in a room full of people who measure your worth in dollar signs. And sometimes, that truth comes from the most unexpected person, a waiter who noticed what her own family refused to see. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, stay with me. This story might feel painfully familiar. And hey, if you want to hear more true stories like this, stories about people who finally chose themselves, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be here for what comes next. The restaurant was the kind of place where the napkins cost more than Sophia's grocery budget. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting soft golden light across tables dressed in cream linen. The Rosewood Room, her mother called it when she sent the invitation. Elegant, sophisticated, everything her family pretended to be. Sophia arrived 15 minutes early, clutching a small gift bag containing the only thing she could afford after paying her sister's credit card bill last month, a delicate silver bracelet she'd found on sale. She smoothed down her navy dress, the one she'd bought at Target 3 years ago, and had worn to every family event since. It was simple, modest, clean. But the moment she stepped through those heavy mahogany doors, she felt it, that familiar weight of not being enough. Her mother, Patricia, sat at the head of the table in a cream silk blouse that probably cost more than Sophia's rent. Her father, Richard, was checking his phone, barely glancing up. And then there was Victoria. Victoria Carter Monroe, 35, walked in like she owned the place. Maybe she did, in a way. Designer heels clicked against marble floors. Her emerald dress hugged every curve, the kind of dress that whispered wealth without saying a word. Her honey blonde hair was styled in loose waves that looked effortless, but probably required 2 hours and a professional. She air-kissed their mother, flashed a perfect white smile at their father, and then her eyes landed on Sophia. "Oh," Victoria said, her voice dripping with something between pity and amusement. "You came straight from work?" Sophia forced a smile. "No. I took the afternoon off, actually." Victoria's eyes swept over the navy dress, and something cruel flickered across her face. "That's what you're wearing?" The table went quiet. Even the ambient music seemed to fade. Sophia's throat tightened. "What's wrong with what I'm wearing?" Victoria laughed, a light tinkling sound that made Sophia's skin crawl. "Nothing, sweetie. It's just very you. Practical." She said the word like it was an insult. Patricia cleared her throat softly. "Victoria, don't start." But there was no real conviction in her voice. No defense of her younger daughter. Just a mild suggestion to behave, the kind you'd give to a child acting up in public. Victoria settled into her seat, crossing her legs elegantly. Her husband, Brandon, arrived moments later, all polished shoes and expensive cologne. He kissed Victoria's cheek and nodded politely at Sophia without really seeing her. He never did. The waiter appeared, young, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes and a professional smile. He poured water, distributed menus, and explained the evening's specials with practiced ease. Sophia ordered the cheapest entree. Victoria ordered the lobster without looking at the price. As the evening progressed, the comments continued. Little digs wrapped in laughter, small cruelties disguised as jokes. "Remember when Sophia used to shop at thrift stores in college?" Victoria said, spearing a piece of asparagus. "Oh, wait, you still do," Brandon chuckled. Patricia smiled uncomfortably. Richard said nothing, lost in his phone. Sophia sat there, fork frozen halfway to her mouth, wondering why she kept showing up to these dinners. Why she kept trying to fit into a family that had decided long ago she didn't belong. Then Victoria turned to their mother, her voice syrupy sweet. "Mom, I wanted to talk about the Hamptons house this summer. Brandon and I were thinking we'd take the kids for July, unless Sophia needs it." She glanced at Sophia with mock sincerity. "Oh, wait. You probably can't get that much time off from your little job, right?" Something inside Sophia cracked. Not broke, just cracked. A hairline fracture that had been forming for years. "It's not a little job," she said quietly. "I'm a senior financial analyst." Victoria waved a hand dismissively. Right. Crunching numbers or whatever. I just mean it's not like you're running a company." She leaned back, satisfied. "Brandon and I have been so blessed with the business. Sometimes I forget not everyone gets to live this way." Blessed, Sophia thought bitterly. The word tasted like ash. Victoria had no idea what blessed really meant. No idea that the phone in her designer purse stayed on because Sophia paid the bill. That the car she drove was registered under a loan Sophia co-signed. That the thriving business she bragged about was drowning in debt that Sophia quietly absorbed every month. The main courses arrived. Victoria's lobster looked obscene. Expensive, excessive. Sophia's chicken was fine, perfectly adequate, which somehow felt like a metaphor for her entire existence. They ate. Patricia talked about her garden. Richard grunted occasionally. Brandon discussed golf. And Victoria, radiant and cruel, held court like the queen she believed herself to be. Then came dessert, and with it, the moment everything changed. The waiter brought out an elaborate chocolate cake, 60 candles flickering against the dim lighting. They sang happy birthday, off-key and half-hearted. Patricia made a wish, blew out the candles, and everyone clapped politely. Victoria stood, raising her wine glass. "To Mom," she said, her voice carrying across the table. "The woman who taught us what it means to have standards, to never settle, to always present our best selves." Her eyes flickered to Sophia when she said that last part. Everyone clinked glasses. Sophia drank her water, the only thing she'd ordered that was free. As the celebration wound down, Victoria pulled out her credit card with a flourish. "This one's on me, Mom. Happy birthday." Patricia beamed. "Oh, sweetheart, you don't have to." "I insist," Victoria said. "It's the least I can do." She handed the card to the waiter with a brilliant smile. Sophia watched, that crack inside her spreading. Because she knew. She knew exactly what would happen next. The waiter took the card and disappeared. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Victoria's smile grew strained. "What's taking so long?" she muttered. Finally, the waiter returned, and Sophia noticed something in his expression. Discomfort. Maybe pity. He leaned close to Victoria, spoke quietly, but not quietly enough. Sophia heard 2 words that made her heart stop. Card declined. If you've ever paid for someone else's life while wearing a cheap dress, drop the word invisible in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what happens next will show you exactly why silence can be the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. Victoria's face flushed deep red. "That's impossible," she hissed. "Try it again." The waiter nodded apologetically and left. The table fell into awkward silence. Patricia fidgeted with her napkin. Richard finally looked up from his phone. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. Sophia sat perfectly still, watching it all unfold like a movie she'd seen 1,000 times, but never quite believed. The waiter returned, and this time his discomfort was obvious. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It's been declined 3 times. Victoria snatched the card back. "There must be something wrong with your machine." She fumbled in her purse for another card. "Use this one." The waiter took it, disappeared again. Another 5 minutes. Another decline. By now, other diners were starting to notice. The whispers, the glances. Victoria's perfect facade was crumbling in real time, and Sophia felt something terrible rising in her chest. Not joy, exactly. Something closer to vindication. The waiter returned once more, but this time he didn't go to Victoria. He came to Sophia. He leaned down, his voice so low only she could hear. "Miss Carter?" Sophia looked up, startled. "Yes?" "I noticed something in our system," he said carefully. "There's another card on file for your family's account. It's been paying for several dinners here over the past year. The name on that card is yours." Time stopped. Sophia stared at him, her mind racing. She'd never given this restaurant her card directly, but she had co-signed on so many of Victoria's accounts, had her name attached to so many bills, that somewhere in the tangled web of debt and obligation, this restaurant had linked her card to the family profile. And apparently it had been quietly covering charges when Victoria's cards failed. "Would you like me to use that card for tonight's dinner?" the waiter asked gently. He wasn't being cruel. If anything, he looked sad for her. Like he'd seen this pattern before, had watched her pay for meals while her family soaked up the credit. Sophia opened her mouth, then closed it. Every eye at the table was on her now. Victoria, pale and panicked. Patricia, confused. Richard, finally paying attention. Brandon, calculating. "What's going on?" Victoria demanded. The waiter straightened, professional mask back in place. "Just confirming payment method, ma'am." But the damage was done. Victoria knew. In that moment, she knew. Sophia could see it in her sister's eyes, that flicker of realization, that awful understanding that the safety net she'd been using for years had a name. And it wasn't Mom. It wasn't Dad. It was the sister she'd just mocked for wearing a cheap dress. "Sophia," Victoria said slowly. "What is he talking about?" Sophia looked at her sister, really looked at her. At the designer dress she couldn't afford, at the jewelry that sparkled with debt, at the perfect life built on someone else's foundation. "He's talking about the truth," Sophia said quietly. And then she did something she'd never done before. She let it all out. "Your phone bill," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "The one you always complain about? I've been paying it for 3 years. Victoria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Your car loan? I co-signed because you had bad credit. I've been covering the payments every time you're short, which is almost every month." Patricia gasped. "Sophia, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that for the last 6 years I've been the one keeping Victoria's perfect life afloat." The words came faster now, years of silence breaking like a dam. "The business loan she brags about. I guaranteed it. When it started failing, when the bills piled up, who do you think the creditors called?" Richard finally set down his phone. "Is this true, Victoria?" Victoria's face had gone from red to white. "It's not like that," Sophia offered to help. "I offered once," Sophia corrected. 6 years ago. You said it was temporary. You said you'd pay me back. And I will," Victoria said, but her voice cracked. "It's just been a rough few years." "A rough few years?" Sophia felt something hot and bitter rising in her chest. "Victoria, you just spent $300 on that dress you're wearing. You went to Paris last month. You posted about your new Prada bag on Instagram yesterday." "That's different," Victoria stammered. "That's for appearances, for the business that doesn't exist," Sophia said flatly. The table went silent. Even the restaurant around them seemed to pause. "What?" Patricia whispered. Sophia pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She'd carried this evidence for months, not sure if she'd ever use it. But tonight, in this moment, she was done protecting her sister's lies. She opened her banking app, turned the screen toward her mother. "These are the transactions from the last year. Every payment I've made on Victoria's behalf." Patricia's eyes widened as she scrolled. Phone bills, car payments, credit cards, business loans, insurance, even the rent on Victoria's apartment, the one she claimed to own. "This can't be right," Patricia said weakly. "Why would you hide this?" "I didn't hide it," Sophia said. "I just stopped talking about it. Every time I mentioned money, Victoria made me feel guilty, like I was being petty, like I was the problem for keeping track." Victoria's hands were clenched on the table. "You're making me sound like a monster." "I'm making you sound like what you are," Sophia replied. "Someone who built a beautiful lie and let me pay for it." Brandon cleared his throat. "Victoria told me you were helping temporarily. She said you offered because you felt bad that you weren't married yet, didn't have kids." The implication hung in the air, and Sophia felt her face burn. "She told you I pitied her?" "That's not what I said," Victoria protested weakly, "but it was." They both knew it. Victoria had spun a story where Sophia was the sad, lonely sister who threw money at her successful sibling out of jealousy or guilt. And everyone had believed it because it fit the narrative they wanted. The golden child and the forgettable one. The star and the shadow. "How much?" Richard asked suddenly. His voice was cold, analytical. "How much has she taken from you?" Sophia didn't hesitate. She'd calculated this number 100 times, late at night when she couldn't sleep, when she wondered if she was crazy for continuing to pay. "Including interest and fees? About $180,000. Patricia's wine glass slipped from her hand, red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. "That's not possible," she whispered. "That's a house. That's years of savings." "That's my life," Sophia said simply. "That's every vacation I didn't take, every promotion I worked overtime for, every date I canceled because I was too exhausted from working 2 jobs to keep your golden daughter afloat." Victoria's face crumpled. Real tears now, not the pretty kind she used for sympathy. "I didn't know it was that much. I swear, Sophia, I didn't know." "Yes, you did," Sophia said, not angry, just tired. "You knew every time you called me crying about another bill. You knew every time you posted about your perfect life while I ate ramen for dinner. You knew." The waiter appeared again, hovering uncertainly. "Miss Carter? About the dinner?" Sophia looked at him, then at her family. At Victoria, mascara running. At Patricia, shocked into silence. At Richard, calculating. At Brandon, embarrassed. This was the moment, the pivot point. She could pay again. Could smooth it over, keep the peace, maintain the fragile lie that they were a happy family. Or she could do what she'd been too afraid to do for 6 years. "Tell me something," Sophia said to the waiter. "How many times has my card been charged for family dinners here?" He hesitated, then pulled out a tablet. A few taps, and his expression grew pained. 7 times in the last 8 months, miss. Totaling about $200. 7 times. 7 family dinners where Victoria had played the generous benefactor. 7 times Sophia had unknowingly footed the bill while being mocked for her Target dress. At that moment, Sophia Carter made a decision that would change everything. And honestly, it was the easiest decision she'd ever made. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't choosing yourself, it's realizing you should have done it years ago. The restaurant had grown quiet around them, other diners pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. The waiter stood there, tablet in hand, waiting for an answer that would determine how this night ended. Sophia looked at her phone screen, at the banking app still open, at the long list of transactions that told the story of her sacrifice. Then she looked up at Victoria. "Do you remember my graduation?" Sophia asked softly. Victoria blinked, confused by the change in subject. "What?" "My college graduation. I asked you to come. You said you were too busy." "I had a work thing," Victoria said defensively. You had a spa day, Sophia corrected. I saw the Instagram posts. You and your friends, champagne and facials, while I walked across that stage alone because Mom and Dad were at your business launch party. Patricia started to protest, but Sophia held up a hand. That launch party for the business that failed 6 months later. The business I helped you restart. And the one after that. And the one after that. Sophia, Richard said, his voice holding a warning. Not here. No, Dad. Here. Now. Because I'm done pretending. Sophia turned back to the waiter. That card you mentioned, the one that's been paying, remove it from the system, permanently. The waiter nodded, tapped his tablet. Done, miss. Victoria's eyes widened. Sophia, wait. Let's talk about this. We are talking about it. For the first time in years, we're actually talking about it. Sophia stood, her chair scraping against the floor. That $4,200, consider it my birthday gift to Mom, the last one you'll ever receive on my dime. Patricia reached for her hand. Sweetheart, please sit down. We can work this out. Work what out, Mom? The fact that you watched Victoria humiliate me tonight and said nothing? The fact that you've known for years she struggles with money but never questioned how she maintained her lifestyle? We thought she was doing better, Patricia whispered. You thought what was convenient to think, Sophia said. Because if you admitted the truth, you'd have to admit you enabled it. That you chose the daughter who looked successful over the one who actually was. The words hung in the air, sharp and irrevocable. Richard stood, his face red. You're being dramatic. Family helps each other. Family doesn't bleed each other dry, Sophia countered. Family doesn't mock each other's clothes while wearing outfits paid for with stolen money. I didn't steal, Victoria cried. You offered. Once, Sophia repeated, her voice harder now. I offered once, 6 years ago, to help you get on your feet. You turned it into a career. Brandon stood, pulling out his own wallet. Look, I'll cover tonight. This is getting out of hand. No, Sophia said firmly. You won't, because this isn't about one dinner. This is about years of taking, years of using, years of making me feel like I was never enough while draining everything I had. She picked up her purse, pulled out her mother's gift, the small silver bracelet, set it on the table gently. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope it was worth it. Sophia, don't leave like this, Patricia pleaded. How should I leave? Smiling? Pretending everything's fine? Paying the bill one more time while Victoria laughs at my dress? Sophia looked around the table one last time. At the remnants of the elaborate dinner. At her family, frozen in various states of shock and guilt. For what it's worth, Victoria, you were right about one thing. This dress is cheap, but at least I paid for it with my own money. She turned to walk away, and Victoria's voice cracked behind her. I'm sorry. Sophia, please, I'm sorry. Sophia paused, looking back. For a moment, something softened in her chest. But then she saw it, the calculation in Victoria's eyes, the assessment of how to fix this, how to smooth it over, how to keep the money flowing. Even now, even caught, Victoria was strategizing. You're not sorry, Sophia said quietly. You're scared. There's a difference. She walked toward the exit, her heart pounding but her steps steady. Behind her, she heard chaos. Victoria crying, Patricia calling her name, Richard demanding the manager. But she didn't stop. She pushed through the heavy doors into the cool evening air and breathed deeply for what felt like the first time in years. Her phone buzzed immediately. Victoria, then Patricia, then Richard. Messages flooding in, apologies and accusations and demands all blending together. She silenced them all. The valet brought her car, her practical Honda Civic that she owned outright because she paid her own bills. As she drove away from the Rosewood room, she looked in the rearview mirror. The restaurant grew smaller, the lights dimmer, until finally it disappeared completely. just like her family's hold on her. For 6 years, Sophia had been invisible, the reliable one, the forgettable one, the one who paid for everything while receiving nothing but criticism in return. Tonight, she'd finally let herself be seen. And tomorrow, she'd figure out what came next. That night, alone in her small apartment, Sophia did something she hadn't done in years. She cried. Not sad tears, though there was grief in them. Grief for the family she'd wanted, for the sister she'd thought she had, for the mother who should have protected her and the father who should have noticed. But underneath the grief was something else, something lighter, relief. She pulled out her laptop and opened a document she'd started months ago. A budget. But this time, it only had one name on it. Hers. She scrolled through her subscriptions, her bills, her expenses. Everything she actually needed, not what her family demanded. And then she did the math. Without Victoria's debt, without the constant emergencies, without being the family's ATM, Sophia realized something stunning. She wasn't broke. She'd never been broke. She'd been stolen from. With her actual salary and no one else's bills to pay, she could save for a house, travel, retire early, live the life Victoria had been pretending to have, except it would be real. Built on her own work, her own success, her own terms. The irony was beautiful and terrible all at once. Her phone buzzed again. This time, an email. From Victoria. The subject line read, "Please read." Against her better judgment, Sophia opened it. The message was long, rambling, full of apologies and excuses and promises to change. But one line stood out. "I don't know how to be anything other than what I am." Sophia read it twice, then closed the laptop. Because that was the truest thing Victoria had ever said. She didn't know how to be anything other than a taker, and Sophia didn't know how to be anything other than a giver. Until now. The next morning, Sophia woke to 17 missed calls. She ignored them all. Instead, she got dressed in her favorite jeans and a comfortable sweater, drove to the bank, and closed every account that had Victoria's name attached. Every co-signed loan, every credit card, every connection that tied them financially. The banker, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, watched her sign the paperwork. "Big changes?" she asked gently. "Long overdue ones," Sophia replied. As she left the bank, her phone rang again. This time she answered. "Sophia, thank God," Victoria breathed. "Listen, I talked to a financial counselor. I can set up a payment plan, pay you back slowly." "No." The word was simple, final. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no. No payment plan. No slow repayment. No contact." Victoria's voice rose. "You can't just cut me off. I'm your sister." "You're someone who used to be my sister," Sophia said. "But sisters don't do what you did. ATMs do. And I'm closed for business. That's not fair." "You're right," Sophia agreed. "It's not fair. It's not fair that I worked myself sick to fund your fantasy. It's not fair that you humiliated me at Mom's birthday. It's not fair that I'm 28 years old with no savings because I was too busy saving you. I'll tell everyone what you did," Victoria threatened, her voice turning ugly. "I'll tell them you abandoned your family." Sophia laughed, a sound without humor. "Go ahead. I have 6 years of bank statements that tell a different story. Tell them I abandoned you. I'll tell them the truth. Let's see which story sounds better." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, desperately, "I need you." "No?" Sophia said. "You need my money. You never needed me." She hung up before Victoria could respond, blocked the number, and kept walking. The sun was warm on her face. The air tasted clean. For the first time in 6 years, Sophia Carter was free. Over the next few months, Sophia learned what it meant to live without the weight of her family's expectations. She learned that silence from people who only valued her for her wallet was actually a gift. She learned that guilt was a choice, and she could choose to let it go. She learned that the people who truly loved her, her real friends, her colleagues, the barista who remembered her coffee order, had never needed her to prove anything. They just liked her for who she was. And slowly, carefully, Sophia learned to like herself too. Not for what she could provide, not for how useful she was, but for the woman she'd been all along underneath the burden. Strong, kind, worthy, enough. 6 months after that dinner, Sophia received one final message from her mother. Victoria's getting divorced. She needs a place to stay. I told her you'd help. Sophia read it twice, then typed 4 words. That's not my problem. She didn't wait for a response. She didn't need to, because she'd finally learned the most important lesson of all. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, and the people who truly loved her had never asked her to pay for it. Sometimes the most expensive thing you can own is a family that treats you like a discount store. Sophia wore her cheap dress that night, but she walked away priceless. If this story hit home, drop a comment below. Have you ever had to choose between family and yourself? And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Because the truth is, we've all got stories that need to be told. Stories about the moment we finally chose ourselves. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.